Chance, good morning. And so it is now 11:12, right? So how time flies. So just a couple of things that I wanted to touch on this morning, of course. So we had the spotlight on the economy earlier on last week, where the Minister of Finance would have outlined the state of the economy to the country. But as was to be expected, and as I saw this morning, the unpatriotic non-national Congress having their usual Sunday morning waste of time press conference. When I checked a short while ago, they only had 27 people viewing online. How unfortunate, with all of their supporters, that they can only garner 27 viewers online, and me being one, having come off, they're now probably down to 26. So clearly not even their supporters are interested in the nonsense that they have to, and the propaganda that they have to spread every Sunday morning. Yeah. So they invite the media every Sunday to listen to nonsense, get 1.5 questions on a good Sunday, and yet still they continue to have this. And I was listening to Dave Tanku, because he's supposed to be the UNC economic specialist in the parliament, but anybody who has listened to this man make a contribution to anything unrelated to finance would realize that he doesn't know his ear from his elbow, right? But that is what the UNC offers to you as an economic specialist. And again, the amount of lies that I heard coming out of this man's mouth, key among those lies this morning was that this administration, upon coming into office, would have the 7,000 food items that the UNC removed VAT from, that the government put back VAT on all 7,000 food items. Yet if you ask them, tell us what the 7,000 food items are, they cannot tell you. Not one member of that party can tell you what the 7,000 food items are, but they keep pushing that propaganda, right? The average citizen will tell you what the normal items are that they would purchase whenever they go to the grocery, if it's at the end of the month, the middle of the month, when they get paid on the fortnight, whatever. I'm certain it's 7,000 food items. And all of the food items, the typical food items that people buy, like flour and rice and all of these things, the government didn't put VAT on it. And I keep telling you all, to expose these liars, simply go on Google and type in VAT-free items, Trinidad and Tobago, or non-VAT items, Trinidad and Tobago, and you will see the list come up from since 2016. This administration came into office in September of 2015, and in February of 2016, they would have published a list of all the food items that there was no VAT on, and that remain non-VATable as we speak for the last 7 years. But that doesn't stop these blatant liars, these inveterate liars, from coming and telling people this nonsense. But the supporters continue to prop up that dotishness, right? And then that is supposed to be the government in waiting. Yeah. They can't tell the truth to save their damn life. All they do is lie, but want to accuse everybody else of being liars. Take a look in the mirror, Tanku and the rest of you all, and you all will see who is the real liars. And as I've been saying recently to supporters of the UNC, take a look in the mirror and see whose party is really the cult and see whose leader is really the dictator. I see they continue to go after this man, Samuel Sanka, for opting to be a patriot, if you want to call it that, and attend the Independence Day functions organized by the state, to which all members of the UNC opposition would have been invited, councillors, members of parliament, and so on. And they chose to absent themselves and protest for what? I don't know, right? They didn't show up, but he decided to show up. And of course, I think it goes without saying that his political fate is sealed. He probably knows that it don't make sense to file a nomination paper, because they're probably not even gonna call you for an interview to become a candidate. And even if they do, it would probably serve the sole purpose of vilifying him for all of the things that he has done within recent times. Yeah. So good luck to you, Mr. But with respect to the spotlight and at the meeting, the PNM meeting, that government most recent meeting that the PNM had in Belmont, where Stuart Young would have outlined a number of issues or brought to light a number of developments with respect to the energy sector. and the things that would have happened under the previous administration, 2010 to 2015, which in some cases the population didn't know about. And it's amazing that after 7 years, things are still coming to light with respect to the nonsense that these people did in their management of the energy sector and by the economy of Trinidad and Tobago between 2010 to 2015. But on account of the fact that their supporters suffer from cognitive dissonance, it don't matter what you tell them, how much evidence you present, facts you present to them, they don't want to hear that. And when you present them with facts and they can't counter it, the first thing they jump up and ball, oh, Kamala not in power no more, and the UNC not in power, is Rowley, and Rowley this, and Rowley that, and deal with Rowley. And the point that Mr. Imbert would have made, and I saw Mrs. Pasad wasted no time in jumping on that and responding to Mr. Imbert's presentation. And the point that several other ministers of this government have made and been making for the last few years is that we are where we are because of what was done between 2010 to 2015. And I know the supporters of the UNC don't like to hear that. They keep telling us we shouldn't be going back. Let's look forward. We're dealing with the last 7 years. Let's not go back to 2010 to 2015. But we continue to say we are where we are today because of what happened then. Is a chain of events. If there was proper management of the economy then, if there wasn't the wastage and squandermania that took place then, if there wasn't the mismanagement of the energy sector then, contrary to what they want to tell you, in comparison to what is happening now, we wouldn't be where we are today. But they don't like to hear that. But they like to go back 40 and 50 years, to talk about O'Halloran and Privat. But don't like to talk about 2010 to 2015. I always say, we don't even need to go back to 95 to 2001 to expose the corruption that is the United National Congress. Because there's a lot of further for us to go back with then, but we don't need to deal with that. We are dealing with the current leadership of the United National Congress as they position themselves to take leadership in this country again. And unfortunately, I'm listening to some people who have been brainwashed, persons who I know for a fact support the PNM, have allowed themselves to be brainwashed with the nonsense.
Pleasant good morning, loyal listeners of the Street 91.9 FM. Due to some technical difficulties, we've lost Dominic, but I'll be reconnecting with and I'll be reconnecting with him right at this second.
I hope this doesn't give me some trouble here. So, I made mention of the fact that Stuart Young would have pointed out a number of developments that would have taken place in the energy sector under the former administration. It's not surprising, though, that the media didn't see it fit to speak to these issues. The media didn't see it fit to highlight. Well, based on what I have seen, they didn't really make it very prominent. Instead, the focus was on Dr. Rowley telling Anil Roberts he could take a horn if he gets one, but he's not going to send anybody to kill anybody if he gets a horn. And for the media, that was the main highlight of that. But, from time to time, I love to go back, into the archives, or as I like to say, back in times. And I want to read an article too this morning that speaks to how well the UNC would have managed, or the People's Partnership would have managed the energy sector. How well they would have managed the energy sector. As they keep telling us, right, that Stuart Young doesn't know what he's doing. Rowley doesn't know what he's doing. In fact, nobody in this administration knows what they're doing. Hence the reason the country is in the state that it is. And that all the windfall that we are experiencing now has nothing to do with anything that Colin Imbert did or that the members of this administration, they had nothing to do with that. It's only because of what's happening outside that we are enjoying the money. But how is that money being spent? How is that money being spent? That is the critical question. That the windfall that we've enjoyed so far for this year, how is it being spent? Is it being spent recklessly? Is the government announcing new projects to be spending money on, as would have taken place if the UNC, People's Partnership, was in office? That they would have found some mega project to spend billions of dollars on. And as I always say, they say when you want to thief, build. This administration hasn't done that. What they've sought to do is to use the windfall to pay down debt, to reduce the country's debt to GDP ratio. Because as you know, that's another thing the UNC like to talk about, right? This government only borrowing asset and money and running up the debt to GDP ratio, only creating debts for the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to pay off. Well, those debts are being paid off. Debts of long-standing are being paid off, such as VAT refunds, and I understand persons have started receiving income tax refunds that have been due for more than 2 years, and other things are currently in place. Yeah? Not wastage and wild spending, as we would have seen. This administration is not known for hosting every year on the 7th of September or the 10th of August, hosting a big bram to celebrate victory at the polls. Unheard of in this country prior to the People's Partnership coming in office. Every year, big party, big fete to celebrate never see come see. Yeah? At whose expense? Taxpayers. You never hear them, the supporters of that party complaining, asking where the money coming from to bring down foreign artists so that you all could enjoy yourself, because you never thought you would see power, the corridors of power again, but you did. And if only because of that, we need to spend money to celebrate. Yeah? Let me read this article here. Yeah, these are back in times. Yeah. Some people like Central and the others. Yeah? But whenever I read this, Central, I always like the ball, what that either sound like if, because the UNC did it, the PNM must do it too. No, sir. It's just to expose the hypocrisy of the party that you support. And I continue to say, your party has no moral authority to criticize this administration on anything. Yeah? But for ease of reference, there's an article from the Sunday Express dated December 12th, 2014. Let me repeat that date. December 12th, 2014, where Kamala Persad-Bissessor was still the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago in 2014. Yeah? Kevin Ramnarine was the Minister of Energy in December 12, 2014. Let me read for you how well they managed the energy sector and how well they managed the economy, as they love to say. To tell you that Stuart Young in the way he's doing. And the trip that the Prime Minister is on now, he and Stuart Young, where they've gone to Europe to speak to the heads of the various energy corporations that have operations in Trinidad, to ensure that the citizens of this country continue to get the best bang for their buck as it pertains to our natural resources that are being exploited by these companies. And I'm certain that when Dr. Rowley meets with the heads of these corporations, he's not going to be wearing sleepwear, the likes of boxer shorts and a white Peter vest, or whatever else he sleeps in. Unlike certain prime ministers who saw it fit, as was reported, and she has never refuted the fact, would have met with energy, the heads of energy corporations in a hotel room in Europe, wearing a duster coat, slippers, and probably a head tie. Yeah? That was the appropriate way to meet with these individuals, to see how serious Trinidad and Tobago is about its energy sector. She's never denied it, no lawsuit. Dr. Rowley isn't the only person who would have made mention of her. Up to today, she has never sued, nor has she ever spoken to the issue and said that is not true. If she has, well, perhaps one of the members of the Waterfront ilk can call in or go on the chat and tell me where I could find the article where she said that wasn't true, because it's been repeated ad nauseum. Yeah? Or as Jillian John says, ad nauseum. Right. Okay, Jillian. Here's the title of the article. 8 energy firms lost $10 billion in the last 4 years. Morning, Brian. I know this is a topic you like to touch on. It's an article written by, let me see who's the author here. You know, I like to quote my sources. We'll play that. Right. Okay, I'm not seeing who the author is here, but yeah, you all could Google it. 8 energy firms lost $10 billion in the last 4 years. So this was from 2010 to 2014. From the time they came in, waste that time. 4 years. From 2010 to 2014, 8 energy companies based in the Point Lisas industrial estate suffered combined losses of US $1,659,000,000, $694,699.20. So they give it to you down to the cent, right? Or roughly $10 billion because of irregular natural gas supply. In turn, the NGC lost US $653 million, or about $4.1 billion in revenues, the government lost US 217.4 million, or about 1.3 billion TT, in corporation tax, and US 1.4 million, or TT 8.82 million, for the Green Fund. Here's the kicker. On August 25th, this is, right, 2014, the Point Lisas Energy Association plea of CEOs, which comprises Ian Welch, who was then managing director of PCS Nitrogen, and the chairman of plea, Jerome Duque, the chief executive officer of Caribbean Nitrogen, Dennis Patrick, the chief executive officer of Methanol Holdings Limited, Roberto Mazzolini, president of the Point Lisas Nitrogen Limited, Robert Belial, managing director and chief executive of ArcelorMittal, Charles Percy, the chief executive and managing director of Methanex, Jay Henderson, managing director of New Iron Trinidad, and Richard de Labastide, president of Yara Limited, penned a 3-page letter about the gas supply curtailments to Energy Minister Kevin Ramnarine. The chief executive said, despite their plea in 2011 that the matter be addressed, they were severely affected by frequent curtailment in the supply of natural gas to various plants. Now, some of you all may recall that when the Sunshine Hour was on back in 2014, 2015, the Sunshine newspaper would have been the first to break this story, pointing out the fact that this letter that I just referred to, that was penned by the Point Lisas Energy Association, comprising of all of the energy companies operating out of Point Lisas, would have sent this letter to Mr. Kevin Ramnarine in 2011. And it was reported in the Sunshine newspaper. For 3 years, that letter went unanswered. Unanswered. Yeah? Plea noted that they had tried to collaborate with other stakeholders in an effort to come up with solutions to the problem. Here what the Point Lisas Energy Association did in order to help to fix the problem without the expenditure or intervention in the government, right? So serious was the situation, they were willing to invest their own efforts, resources, to fix the problem. Plea even facilitated and paid for, and this is in the letter that they sent to Kevin Ramnarine, consultants to work with the group you agreed to form to look at the shortfall issue. Sadly, to date, little progress has been made. 3 years. Indeed, despite these efforts and notwithstanding numerous assurances to the contrary, the gas curtailments continue unabated and have been worse than forecast and appear to have no end in sight. As a result of this situation, our respective companies, and by extension, the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, continue to lose significant revenue daily, the letter stated. This is not Keith Rowley saying this. This is not Stuart Young. This is not Coleman Wood saying this, right? This is the Point Lisas Energy Association putting this in writing in a letter to then Minister Kevin Ramnarine in 2014. Keith Rowley had no power then, right? Coleman Wood had no power. Stuart Young wasn't even on the scene, okay? But I continue. But they want to tell you all the time, oh, the economy was well managed under them and things were better. And the energy sector was booming. Now, the misleader of the opposition like to call the Point Lisas industrial estate a scrapyard, a graveyard for energy companies. So all right, but $10 billion lost in 4 years. 4 years. Up until that point, into December, we know that the hemorrhage continued for the rest of the next 9 or 10 months that they remained in office. But I continue. This does not include the other indirect losses and expenses, such as the damage caused to our equipment by constantly having to cycle the plants to respond to broad fluctuations in supply, and the impact that this has had on the equipment's ability to continue to produce safely at design capacity. Nor does it capture the full trickle-down effect on and the opportunity cost to the nation. Additionally, indirect effects include the increased risk of accidents and environmental mishaps and the development of a reputation as an unreliable supplier of petrochemical products. Let me read that last line. And the development of a reputation as an unreliable supplier of petrochemical products. And that reference there is to Trinidad and Tobago, right? Again, I repeat, this letter that I'm reading here from the Point Lisas Energy Association, for those of you just joining us, wasn't written under Keith Rowley. This was written under Kamla Persad-Bissessar as Prime Minister. It goes on to say, Honorable Minister, the image that is being painted of Trinidad and Tobago is that it is a place where the gas is either running out or the supply has been overcommitted. And Stuart Young pointed to that at that last meeting, overcommitment of gas. longer this image is allowed to persist, the less attractive this country will be as a venue for foreign direct investment. But Mrs. Prasad Bisasa loves to talk about how much billions of foreign direct investment came in this country when she was Prime Minister. And under Keith Rowley, foreign direct investment is negative. All right. Numerous investors have passed up the opportunity of investing in Trinidad and chosen to invest in other countries where the supply of gas is more readily available and consistent. What you say? Really? Let me read that again. Numerous investors have passed up the opportunity of investing in Trinidad and chosen to invest in other countries where the supply of gas is available and consistent. Again, this is not under Keith Rowley. We fear that unless the situation is soon brought under control and the confidence in the availability of gas to be supplied to our plants is restored, we may soon witness the permanent closure and migration of plants from Trinidad and the collapse of the Point Lisas model, the letter observed. You want to hear that again? Morning to Mr. Tabaki. Morning, Kunji. And to the trolls on the line. You see, when you read things like this, and I bet I'm not reading the comments, right? But I bet if I go into the comments, I will see, you hear them. Oh, food price so high, and crime out of control, and la, 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 and this, that, the other, the next, and that's what you want to talk about. You ain't talking about, really? Your leader, the misleader of the opposition, ain't talking about crime, right? Because the latest post on her Facebook page ain't talking about crime, it ain't talking about the high price of food, it ain't talking about none of that. You know what you're talking about? State of the economy. You know what she's talking about? Coleman Booth. You know what she's talking about? Stuart Young. What she's talking about? Government's management of the economy. And the picture that she's painting, that when she was Prime Minister and her administration was in office, that they were managing the energy sector so well, which is the mainstay, the energy sector, which is the lifeblood of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, was so well managed under her. But the Point Lisas Energy Association is telling us something totally different. While she was Prime Minister, and they weren't afraid to put her and her minister in the damn place. Short term or medium term, the permanent closure and migration of plants from Trinidad and the collapse of the Point Lisas model, the letter observed. They said the situation required immediate and definitive handling and called for critical measures which they identified as 1. Concrete action items with a timeline to restore a reliable, stable gas supply to the Point Lisas Energy Association in the shortest time. 2. Appropriate planning and communication of items in one above. 3. Short, medium, and long-term outlook of gas supply so the proper planning can be effected. It is understood that this can only be made possible with accurate forecasts of well depletion rates superimposed by new production capacity. An understanding of the new gas-consuming projects that have been announced and progressing. What is the plan for the supply of gas to these projects, given that the gas shortages being experienced by existing customers have not been addressed? So in this point here, they are speaking to the issue that Stuart Young addressed, that where that administration were making commitments of new gas supplies to new projects, while the existing projects and existing customers were suffering. But that made sense to them. 5. Reinstate the reserve gas behind pipe to mitigate unplanned upstream outages that will significantly reduce curtailments in Point Lisas. Please said that while they appreciated Ramnaraine's efforts, given the severity of the problem and the very dire consequences with which we and the country as a whole are faced, we consider it our duty to escalate the matter and strongly recommend that immediate action be taken to reverse the worsening and prolonged situation. Please be assured of our ongoing cooperation of our companies towards sustainable solutions and improvement in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. The letter ended with the signatures of all 8 chief executives. That letter had followed a letter penned by Plea on Iwer, October 3rd, 2011, which had also called on Ramnarine to address the gas situation because of mounting losses by the plants. The letter observed, in implementing these curtailments, the NGC also continues to claim the protection of force majeure clauses in other contracts. There is dissimilarity between the contracts in this regard, and while the clauses provide the NGC with a shield in genuine cases of events beyond its control, the expectations are that the NGC must take every reasonable step to limit the force majeure event and its consequences. Furthermore, contractually, the NGC is obligated to meet with us to discuss the consequences of the force majeure event and the intended remedial actions to be implemented. This simply has not occurred. This is the letter. Let me repeat that. This simply has not occurred. Indeed, the NGC routinely gets notification of shutdowns from its suppliers and then passes those over to us, forcing us to reduce production rates. The letter goes on to highlight all of the, again, a number of suggestions made by the Point Lisas Energy Association on how the problem could be fixed. Contacted yesterday to comment on the letter, Ramnarine maintained the stance he'd taken in an interview with the Sunday Express 2 weeks ago, that the problem won't be set right until 2017. 2017. So that when this administration came in 2015, when for all of 2016 and 2017, and they were telling you all the problems that they were having with the energy sector, you know what the UNC was telling you? This mismanagement, PNM, Rowley and the men, what they're doing, they're mismanaging the energy sector, and it was booming under us. But here it is. In this article, Kevin Ramnarine is telling you in 2014 that the problem would not be set right until at least 3 years later, 2017. 2 years after they demitted office. Yeah? But again, you know what the literati will say? We want to hear that. No, blame Rowley, and blame Imbut, and blame Stuart Young. Yeah? They know what they're doing. He goes on to say, there is a gap between what could be supplied and what is the total demand, and that gap is probably 5 to 10%. I'm going to be honest with you, the situation will not go away for the next 2.5 years. Let me repeat this. This is Kevin Ramnarine, the UNC Minister of Energy, 2014. I am going to be honest with you. You know, honesty is not something that is very common in the United National Congress. That situation will not go away for the next 2.5 years. Where we will get relief is in the year 2017, when the Juniper BP gas field comes on. Yeah, that's Kevin Ramnarine. 2.5 years. It's not going to fix. Yeah? But when the PNM came into office, and they started to experience the problem, the very same problem that he told you wouldn't go away for 2.5 years, did Kevin Ramnarine hold a press conference and say, well, you know, it's not the PNM fault and it's not Rowley's fault, it's not the Imbut fault? Remember, I had told you all in December 2014 that this was going to be the situation. Did he do that? No. At all of the Monday night forum meetings that they had, did you ever hear the misleader, the opposition, come and say, well, you know what the PNM is telling you, what the Minister of Finance and what the Minister of Energy at that time, Franklin Cannon, what they're telling you is true? Because you recall, in 2014, Kevin Ramnarine had said so. No. The PNM is destroying the energy sector. And the energy sector was so great under us. And everything was working well. And we signed so many gas contracts with this company and that company. And everything was looking rosy. And if we had remained in office, everything would have been honky-dory. But no. Keith Rowley has the minus touch. Everything he touches goes into minus. But Kamala had the Midas touch, and everything she touched turned to gold. Really? Keith Rowley didn't write this article. Keith Rowley didn't write that letter. Keith Rowley was not a member of the Point Lisas Energy Association, which wrote the letter in 2011, which was ignored for 3 years, or paid scant regard for 3 years, as the Sunshine newspaper would have reported. And again, when that was pointed out, when the Sunshine newspaper brought that issue to the fore, and this was before this article, nobody from the UNC denied it. Nobody came and said the article is a lie. Huh? Nobody threatened to sue Jack Warner and the Sunshine newspaper for posting lies. It was true. Right? But they want to paint a picture. $10 billion lost. $10 billion from 2010, from the time they came in with the Midas touch. No, remember King Midas? Yeah? They had the Midas touch. But this article is telling you 2010 to 2014. So basically the entirety of their tenure up until the point that this article was written in 2014. $10 billion lost. Now, if Keith Rowley's administration had that $10 billion, what could they have done? But yet still, notwithstanding all of that happening, NGC was spending money. Like money was no problem. Yeah? Spending money on refining $1 billion and plus dollars to do the Beetham wastewater treatment plant. They had money to pay for refurbish recreation grounds. $139 million was it for the penal recreation ground, but they have a problem with how much money being spent to renovate Skinner Park. Anybody ever hear about the penal recreation ground? Where that is? Penal? How many of you listening ever went there? I'm sure plenty of you all here know where Skinner Park is and what Skinner Park is famous for. I'm pretty sure that Skinner Park was much more used than the penal recreation ground. To justify $139 million? But they paved that pavilion with diamonds? The seating was made out of what? Velvet? $139 million? Okay. They had money to spend on happiness campaign, $20 million to tell you and me what it means to be happy. Right? Newspaper advertisement, television advertisements. Who eat up that $20 million? The favorite PR man. Anyway, let me not go there. Yeah. $10 billion lost in 4 years, but NGC could still find money to pay for all of these things. $1 million plus to pay for Fed tickets, South Cancer Fed. $1.1 million in tickets they purchased. 10 billion loss. All these energy companies crying, money losing. Yeah? And more than that was lost because as you heard in the article that I just read there, where the chairman of PLE would have spoken to other indirect losses. They're basically saying, here, what now? We don't need to stay in this country, you know. All they're playing up, boss. And they have plenty other countries where they have plenty gas, and we could go there and set up shop and not have to deal with this headache. Because if all you don't care about what's happening with the energy sector in the country that you are governing, what the hell with all you? We doing you all a favor. And if you all don't want to help us to fix the problem, well, we have no problem either. Ever hear any of these companies say that under Keith Rowley? Well, did you see any articles like this published in the last 7 years? You see the Point Lisa's Energy Association calling on Dr. Rowley to fix these problems over his administration's mismanagement of the energy sector? Anybody who listening from the waterfront ilk, post it on the chat. Tell me where I could find that article, no? Tell me where I could find that letter similar to this one that was written not once but twice in 4 years. And what was done to fix the problem? Nothing. This was an issue that this PNM administration under Keith Rowley inherited and had to fix. Keith Rowley was able to go abroad. Like the meeting that he is in, the trip that he is making now, he was able to go abroad and brought back home $3 billion. Yeah? Or as Andy like to say, billion. All of you who like to watch Dogalaya politics, you know that's how he is saying. Keith Rowley, through his negotiation skills, through his discussions with the heads of these energy companies while wearing a suit and proper shoes, probably Oxfords. I don't know what is Dr. Rowley's preference with respect to shoes. He has some style. Yeah? He has some fashion sets. He wasn't wearing, as I say, jockey shorts and a white beater. Yeah? Or bareback. Or wearing a robe. Or, yeah? When he went and he met with them, $3 billion came back to the coffers. $3 billion that was lost because of the poor deals, the sweetheart contracts that the PP administration would have signed with these companies in an effort to motivate them to bring here because they were desperate for foreign direct investment. But you heard Mr. Welch in that letter there state how much investors, foreign investors, we lost out on. Foreign investors who today should have been operating or should have had operations in Trinidad and Tobago, yeah, paying taxes, who should have been drilling for oil and gas, and who should have been adding monies to our economy and our coffers. That because of that situation, that was allowed to persist under Kamla Prasad Bisasan, her Ministry of Energy and her Minister of Energy. Because of that, as you just heard in that letter there, these operators, these foreign investors are not present in Trinidad and Tobago today. So that when we tell you that what is happening in the country today and the impact on the economy, the ripple effect of the poor decisions that were made back then in 2010 to 2015 and all, I don't want to talk about that. The evidence there. All those investors and the money, the billions of dollars that they would have been bringing to us, they went and set up shop in other countries because, A, the image that was presented by the incompetence of that administration between 2010 and 2014 in terms of the management of the energy sector drove these investors away. Yeah? So they didn't want to touch Trinidad with a 100-foot pole. Well, you're mad to come here and have to go through that stress that well, you're already there going through. Forget that. We go in where we have no problems. Yeah? So when you hear them today talking about, oh, all the investors run into Guyana and nobody want to come to Trinidad. This administration inherited that problem, right? And according to Kevin Ramnarai, it would have taken them at least half of their tenure in the first tenure, 2015 to 2020, to get the problem fixed. At least half, 2.5 years to fix it. Middle of 2017, right? And of course, the problem was not just when the PNM came into office in 2010, it just stalled. So it's, well, okay. It would have gotten worse. And mechanisms would have had to be put into place to fix it then to ensure that it met the timeline of 2017. But this administration had to deal with so many other things. We don't talk about that. Yeah, let's bury those things. That's the truth. I didn't write the article, and that's why I quote the source. I'll tell you where it is. December 12, 2014, Trinidad Express. Go and look for it for yourself and read it in its entirety and see. So whenever you hear them talking about the energy sector and they have the nasty comments to make about the spotlight on the economy to talk about, let me see. I'm going to give Ola a little bit of what she said. Because it's 11:49, so I know the ads coming up just now. Let me just get a little bit there. Pull it up here. The damn nonsense. I know some of you all don't have the stomach to listen to her palace. Anyway, let me go there. Let me pull it up. Yeah. I said she wasted no time. She says the government's PR event spotlight on the economy at the Hyatt was such a brazen political propaganda. It would have made even North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un blush with embarrassment. You see, again, as somebody who wants to be the future prime minister of this country, you need to understand. You cannot be bashing foreign leaders in this way. So when you put out a post stating that such a brazen act of political propaganda would have made even North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un blush with embarrassment. Only for real? You all don't understand diplomacy? You cannot be criticizing and making comments like that about foreign leaders, whatever your personal view is of them. Because when it is you, if, God forbid, you were to come back in office as prime minister, you have to deal somehow, some way with these people or deal with persons who deal with them. And when you make, even if we don't have direct contact or any type of direct diplomatic ties with that country, the fact of the matter is that they have diplomatic ties with other countries that we deal with. And when you make statements like that, you may offend the friends of Mr. Kim Jong-un. Yeah? So that is why your minions could say these things, but as the political leader of the party and the aspiring prime minister to be, you cannot say these things. But then she never understood diplomacy, international diplomacy. So I'm not surprised. Probably she didn't even write a speech, but she allows people to post all kind of crap on her page. She says, once again, in what has become a running theme with this PNM government, unelected state employees were trotted out before the public and made to sing the praises of the Rowley regime under the nearby watchful gaze of Rowley himself. But we know she's an expert of singing praises. She spent how many hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money to fet the so-called 1%, the Syrian Lebanese community up at the diplomatic center, something Dr. Rowley has never done, to sing their praises. So she's an expert in identifying singing praises. This was no spotlight on the economy, rather it was an act of obscurity to cover up the PNM's blatant failures. It was depressingly predictable that all the Minister of Finance had to offer our nation was yet another litany of the same tired excuses. Blame Kamala, blame COVID, blame Putin. Right. Once again, the Minister of Finance, with his usual low bar of expectation, wants us to focus on countries worse off than us rather than countries that are moving ahead of us. And for the 8th consecutive year, this PNM regime has failed to outline a clear policy to promote economic growth, increase the ease of doing business, and create an investor-friendly environment. The people of Trinidad and Tobago do not need to attend a fancy lunch at Hyatt, paid for by taxpayers, to know the truth about the harsh economic reality that they are living in. No, but they could afford, millions of dollars spent on Fed tickets, yeah? $20 million to tell them how they should be, what they need to do to be happy. They can taste it every time they buy groceries. They can see it every time they travel to work or fill their car with gasoline. And they can feel it every time they look at their children and wonder how they're going to afford school books and uniforms. Keith Rowley may control what state employees say, but Rowley cannot control the truth, which every citizen knows, that our nation is in crisis and in need of a government that works for them, not against them. Really? So you were working for us, Mrs. Prasad Bisessa, when you and your administration signed contracts with these energy companies that would have denied the coffers of Trinidad and Tobago, the treasury of Trinidad and Tobago taxes until 2024. That was how she put it, working for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, such that Keith Rowley had to go and have discussions to get back money, $3 billion, and then impose a 12.5% royalty on volume so that we could somehow get some money from the extraction of our natural resources, right? Our finite natural resources. Because had he not done that, the sweeter deals that you and your administration signed would have ensured that this government would have had even less revenue, right? To do all of the things that you want them to do, that they can't afford to do. And they're not going to be irresponsible as you to take the exchequer account from 10 billion to 33 billion. Yeah, in deficit. So maybe they should do what you did and say, well, we will add another 23 billion to, yeah, and take it to 56, 60. Say to hell with that, but leave it in permanent overdraft. And that's a problem for some other administration to take care of later on down the road, right? And that makes sense. The economy, true deficit. They see they don't talk about that because they know the members of the literati not going and pull up the Auditor General's report and read and see the full scope of the nastiness that they did, right? The dysfunction and incompetence that they claim this government is, or accuse this government of, but that they would have executed in an even worse manner.
Dominic, you have about a minute left, all right?
How much?
A minute.
I didn't hear that.
You have a minute left.
Okay. Yeah, so there was something else I wanted to touch on too again, and I've touched on it before. It was that statement that Kevin Ramnarine would have made in 2014 also with respect to the state of Petrotrin, the consistent losses that Petrotrin had suffered, and his identification of a number of refineries that had closed around the world, hinting that if they had won election in 2015, the closure of Petrotrin, or the closure of the refinery, was a real possibility. Yeah, but I don't have the time for that today. So next week when I'm back in the country, next week Sunday, we will delve into that a little bit and tie it in.
You've got bills to pay, and so do we.
But
let's go pay some bills on the street 919 FM.
So that in the coming days when you hear them, because as I said, right now they have their
Dominic,
Sunday.
the answer up.
Join Pastor Kelvin Heinerine and friends before The Way, The Truth, The Life Radio Ministry, a Church of God ministry, live on the street 919 FM from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This and every Sunday on the street 919 FM. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father except through me. John chapter 14, verse 6. For further information, contact 686-3845, 349-5178, or 342-7303.
Reggae Rock Sundays featuring MC Duke and Selector Kutchi present Reggae and Rockers. On board the Embassy Yacht on September 24th, Republic Night. Boarding 10 p.m. and sailing at 11 p.m. at the Hyatt Waterfront in Port of Spain. Get your reggae groove on. With got top DJs, Selecta Kachi, Bruce Wayne, TC, and Heavy Duty. Early bird tickets cost $150. After that, you pay more, $175. For tickets, call Selecta Kachi at 777-7909 and MC Duke at 349-4121. Reggae and Rockers Republic Night. No oversized schoolers allowed. Don't miss it. Tune in to the Street 919 FM every Friday from 9:15 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. with Kingdom Health Services, situated at number 125 Eastern Main Road in Tunapuna. For the program, Health and Healing, merging the old with the new with Mr. Brent Diet. For more information, call 318-7471 or 484-0141 or 360-4100. It's all about Kingdom Health Services on the Street 919 FM.
If you're experiencing pain, constipation, headaches, poor blood circulation, high or low blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, swollen or darkened feet, come visit us at Health and Wealth Lifestyle, located at 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria, opposite Eastern Credit Union. We at Health and Wealth Lifestyle offer a wide range of services. Come and experience our new 3D analyzer, which allows you to have a look inside your body. We also provide live blood analysis, iridology, ionic foot detox with foot soak and foot massage, aquatherapy, full body massage, and organic supplements on sale such as nano silver, nano zinc, body light, cold pressed sesame oil, and more. Health and Wealth Lifestyle, located at number 73 Eastern Main Road, Barataria, opposite Eastern Credit Union. For more information, call 275-8359 or 288-1108.
Join Nicole Huggins for Health and Wealth Lifestyle
Tuesday morning from 11:05 to 12 noon.
Right here on the Street 919 FM.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
I like it, you know. Excitement. Excitement. Yeah. I want some zest. I want some zest. Some spice in my life. I want some zest, yeah.
Right. So, welcome back and thank you for staying locked to the Street 919 FM. I didn't realize the ad set was going to be so short. And I've been reading some of the comments here, which I try not to do, because it just threw me off. So one guy is saying that I'm singing for my plate and so about the money. I have made this abundantly clear before, and I'll say it again. You see what I do here? It's a labor of love, and nothing irks me more than to go on social media and wherever else and listen to the propaganda that is spread by members of the opposition, to listen to the misguided souls who unfortunately have been afforded an opportunity to sit and have a voice on the airwaves, don't know what they're talking about, always talking rubbish. Now, I always say, if you want to debate me, if anything that I say here you disagree with and you think that it is a lie, then fine, present your truth and let's have a debate. Because I do my research. I don't just come here and yap. Understand? And I always quote sources. So it's not just me mouthing off. So this thing about me singing for my supper or singing for my plate and it's all about the money and so on. I do very well in my personal profession. Huh? Very well. Let me just say that. I mean, some people have mentioned to me about how often I travel. My career allows me to do that. Yeah? It allows me to do that. I do very well. So, has nothing to do with me singing for any supper, about me getting paid to do this. For the entire time that we were on Sunshine Hour under Mr. Horner, We did that for a year and a half. I never got a penny, not a dime, not a farthing for doing that. And we came out religiously and did what we had to do because we wanted to see the corrupt UNC People's Partnership government out of office. And we did our job very well. Very, very well. Yeah? It was only after the election we found out the wide listenership that we had. So again, when you all want to accuse me of, singing for my supper and I'm lick bottom and all this kind of nonsense, no. At the end of the day, I cannot support the UNC because I know what they are. If I could listen to a Sunday morning press conference and hear lies coming out of the mouth of these two people, Tahaka Obika and Dave Tanku, right? Lying to the people, and I know the evidence is there to show otherwise, then I will expose it. But if you people who support that party choose to turn a deaf ear to the lies that they are telling because you want them to come back in office because what? Under them you figure things was better. And we continue to show the point. They were spending on average $10 billion a year more than this administration is spending. And if Dr. Rowley and his administration were to be so reckless to say, well, we will borrow the 10 billion or more extra that we don't have, that we're not generating in revenues, so that the citizenry could live better, but understand that there will be consequences later on down the road. That when it is that we have to be spending all of our country's foreign reserves, paying interest on foreign loans to support the lifestyle that Kamala got you all accustomed to, because she was enjoying the, as she loves to call, the highest energy revenues in the country's history. Now that this government, for the past few months, has been enjoying a windfall, there are a number of debts that would have been incurred under the last administration, under this one, to ensure that you all still continue to enjoy some level of comfort. It is not this administration's fault that the price of things are going up. In the US here, I could tell you, when I go to Walmart and I go to some of the other groceries and Publix and these places and I look at the prices of some of the food stuff and grocery items, it is much higher than it was when I was here 2 months ago. It's much higher than it was when I was here 6 months ago. It's much higher than it was when I was here in November and December last year. Much higher than that, right? Keith Rowley is the Prime Minister of the United States of America. That's his fault. So the same things that you are griping and complaining about back home is the same thing that is happening here. So much so that you have some of these big companies complaining they're losing money because why? People just not buying stuff anymore. They have too much inventory. All listing and pack up in warehouses and nobody buying it because the prices are too high and people cannot afford the increase in the cost of living. But listening to some of you all, some of you degenerates, you will swear that it's only in Trinidad and Tobago these things happening. And the government could do this and do that and do the other and do the next. Get the money from where? If they had the money, they would do it. This government has gone beyond, above and beyond in order to try and save money. So all of the big money projects that the PP had projected budgets for hundreds of millions of dollars, every single one of those projects came in under budget, under this administration for far less than what the PP had planned to spend on it. But you all look at that. No. Oh, the PNM does thief and the PNM does thief. And I've outlined to you all on more than one occasion how many projects this government could have thief on based on the budget that the PP had projected. One of those projects alone would have met the entire cabinet, could have served one term and left as multi-millionaires. All of them. But they didn't do that. PP, different story. Tiana, you could open the lines. Tiana, you there?
Hello, Dominic.
Morning. Or good afternoon, sorry. Hello?
A pleasant good afternoon. You're live. Yes. Yes, we are.
You're hearing me because
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, right. So as I was saying, Dominic, again, morning to you, morning to all the callers, listeners on 91.9. Mr. Chan from the son of Puna. Hope everything is all right with you, my darling, and everybody. Dominic, if you were just to study the UN or the opposition, you'll see that nothing is happening in this country, nothing good is happening in this country. But if you are logically speaking, if you want to believe what they're saying, well, this whole country would have done fall apart a long time. So we know what they're saying is foolishness. The challenge is to get the information out there for people to understand, because a lot of people do not understand really what's happening. They just hear talk and they run with it, and they feel, oh God, because Mr. Green thing expensive in the groceries, and all there's a right to it. People do not like how they understand really what's happening. They just hear talk and they run with it. That this is not a thing that people that this is a worldwide situation. That whole state, which I know Tobago could probably sit in, they have no clean water. They have no clean water, so the army has to be busting in, drinking water for them. They have no clean water. Imagine that baby that's of it, that has no money, that is a whole democracy. They have homelessness in America, all over in America. This winter here, people may die in those, or these kid rows of the schools and under the bridges and stuff because they don't have access to heat. They don't have no way to live. These things are people don't be lining up. They have to get into the shelter to sleep from 6 o'clock. If you come after that, you can't get in because when it's early morning, they're waking up to eat. They can't stay and relax there. And who comes first? And get up there to sleep when the night comes. People are juggling like that in America, in Europe and all that. So when they start to tell us, like, the sky is falling in, nothing is right. And wicked. Well, let me tell you something. Half of them, if you were to bust them out to America, no, they will go glad. And when they reach 2-3 days time, they're begging to come back to Trinidad because they realize that it ain't so bad as we think it is. We need to sometimes put aside the politics, which is very difficult. We need to speak about the racism that we're facing in this country. If the Indians say they're facing racism, only talk about it. But we know as African people that we face racism. And we have to talk about this thing in an open forum and not be afraid to speak. We enjoy no punches, gloves off. This kid glove approach we just want to give to all topics as well as have us in this position. Because you're just afraid to talk the truth. You don't want to offend nobody. So we just soften it and nice it. But when them come and we them come in raw and dread and hard, and we just have to sit back, no, the time for that has done. And as I ended, I see that the case to the Piaco airport has been, they failed. That is the 3 Pandey, Galbaran Singh and Carlos John, and if my reading is correct, they would have failed in the bid to stop that preliminary inquiry from going on. So it is happening, and it's starting back the 22nd of September this year, so this month. So I think this is good news. You could run as long as you want. You could run as fast as you want, but they just catch up with night. The longest rope ever end. So this is something for us to keep our eye on, and we will continue to stand in defense of our country, not in no way, to no physical way, no violence or anything, but we'll stand together in love, unity, while standing in strength, but standing proud in our space as a people, individual as we may be, collectively as we may be, to build this country. Thanks again for always allowing me the opportunity to have my say. Right.
Thank you, Jenny.
Pleasant, good morning, you're live.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, you're live.
Hi, good morning. You hearing me?
Good morning, you're live.
Hi, good morning. Dominic, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, pleasant, good morning or good afternoon. I can't remember which one it is. To the listeners and callers, good morning to you, ma'am, and also to Dominic. Dominic.
Yes, sir.
To add to what you were saying, I recall Linford Christie, when this government got into office in 2015, had to run to the Prime Minister to indicate that they did not have any sort of genuine contract. You understand? And they needed a contract to continue to do their work. I recall in early 2015 when Ramnarayan was asked during the last few months of the UNC of the partnership, when Ramnarayan was asked what is going on with the gas issue and Point Lisas, he said that there was a turnaround with the upstream companies when that was not true. You understand? And when this government got into power, they got to realize that they made a secret deal with the upstream companies, a contractual arrangement not to pay anything until 2024. That was the deal that they had. And what also happened too was that arrangements were made with a Japanese firm to supply the majority of whatever gas they got to that plant down in Labre. And if there was any excess, those in Point Lisas may or may not get. They never told us about that. Do you understand? And what happened when this government got into power? They recognized they were going to be sued by the Point Lisas companies for lack of contractual agreements and so on. And Jerry Brooks and his team had to go in there and renegotiate contractual arrangements. Dr. Rowley had to fly Stuart Young to Japan to tell the Japanese consortium, hey, that can't work. And then Dr. Rowley and his team and a set of technical lawyers had to fly to Houston, Texas to talk to the upstream people in their boardroom and say, listen, we have a problem and we need to get it solved. That arrangement, that agreement with the downstream companies like the urea plant and the ammonia plants and so on in Point Lisas, that arrangement, that had to be, those contracts had to be rearranged for 3 years in order to quell the anger of those companies in Point Lisas because they were going to sue the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. There were lies coming out of Ramnarayan and Kamala Prasad with Cesar's mouth from there. Kamala didn't even know what was going on. She didn't know how to negotiate. And Ramnarayan was in the same thing too because he didn't understand. So for him to come today, and every time something happens, they run to him. All the newspapers and all of the TV stations run to him as if he's some expert. He is not an expert because they messed it up. They did not know what to do. Do you understand? And therefore, it was a total mess when this government came in here. But Dr. Rowley had to hire international attorneys who knew about the oil and gas industry to assist us and getting better deals and so on with the upstreamers and the downstreamers. I will never forget Linford Christie running into the Prime Minister's office and saying, hey, we have a problem here, you know. Those are long-term contracts. Those are not 5-year contracts and 10-year. Those are long-term, 25 and 30-year contracts. Because it takes quite some time for these companies to drill, and it takes a lot of time for them to get the oil and the gas out of the ground. The UNC did not and never had a clue what they were doing because all they were busy doing was thieving and spending the money. The overdraft facility in the exchequer went up to $33 billion. $33 billion. I could remember before this guy who became head of the independent bench. There was another guy who was there before, the Indian guy. I can't recall his name. He in a meeting of the Joint Select Committee asked the question, "What is this overdraft about of this $33 billion?" When he realized that was because of what the UNC overspent and borrowed on. He kept it. He didn't say. He didn't ask another question after that. I was looking on at that. I can't remember his name now. But he was the one before Paul Richards became the head of the independent bench. It was the other guy.
That is Mahabe.
You understand? So for them to come and talk about things were so rosy under them, that is an out and out lie. I was so frightened about those downstream companies because they began to close them one by one. I'm not hearing you, Dominic, but I've seen your mouth moving, but I'm not hearing you. Sorry about that. But they began to close down one by one, and then Jerry Brooks had to go in there and repeat himself and renegotiate for years and to quell these issues. Prime Minister Dr. Rowley even had to run to Jamaica to quell certain things that were being said that was done under the UNC because Jamaica decided they were not going to buy our goods. And the private sector would have suffered. People forgetting these things. Do you understand? And something had to be done. It was fix everything and then begin to move on. It was years and years. And then at that time, the oil price went down below zero. And then we still had the $5 billion back pay. We had to find money to pay the public servants. There was a lot of issues. And then the finance minister said that they borrowed money on short-term basis from the local banks for 3 months and 6 months and 9 months. And he had to refinance all of those loans. There was a lot of things. So for them to come now, I want to get back in power and say that everything was so good and rosy, and then there are a bunch of liars. And I don't even listen to them. I listen to them, but just shake my head. And we have to educate the people, Dominic. Otherwise, they're going to forget and they're going to say, well, this thing was really good under them, but what they don't know. So I thank you for what you read this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. And the sanitary referring to was Danny Summerhat. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. And the
Pleasant, good morning, you're live. Good morning, you're live.
I'm not hearing Dominic.
You're live.
Yeah, Dominic, I want to ask you a question. You know, your callers like to emphasize the UNC was there for 5 years, 3 months and 14 days. Well, during that 5 years, 3 months and 14 days, with all the allegations of mismanagement of the economy and corruption and whatever, the country was in the state of like how it is right now under the astute leadership of Dr. Keith Crowley. Busted infrastructure, mash up road, high crime, high food prices, high everything except your salary. Everything mashed down in the country. And they like to only talk about Kamala and she 5 years and she 5 years and whatever. Rowley was in government here for 7 years and check the state of this country. People, parents begging now for help to buy back to school supplies, the school opening on Monday. And everything mashed down in the country. But you're talking about Kamala, mismanage the economy for 5 years and whatever. Dr. Rowley here for 7 years and check this.
A pleasant good morning, you're live. Go ahead. Caller, you're sounding very low.
Barely hearing.
Caller, you're sounding very low. Pleasant, good afternoon, you're live.
Good afternoon. I want to know all the bogus contracts to get to fix the road. That is what causing the road to mash up now because they had all the money to spend. And instead of bogus work they had given out to their friends and their family. I want them to know that. Okay? If it was fixed properly, they would have had no problem right now. And all the money that they thief and they send out the country, try and get it back to Dr. Rowley to fix the road properly. I want Central to know that. Right? All the money that they have, go and get it. With all their friends and their family. So you're talking about that spunk. That's stupidness. Right? All the faults. With all material that they use. We have no right to have no complaint with no road or nothing right now because they had plenty of money to play with. Or they shared out to their friends and their family. And they want to talk about Dr. Rowley. Where is Dr. Rowley?
Pleasant, good afternoon, you're live.
Yes, my darling, Uncle Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you something. Dr. Rowley there for 7 years and it's crime and it's this. When Kamala was there, he didn't have any crime. Why she lock up 8,000 black people? Because it had crime or no crime. All the roads, within 7 years, the road gets deteriorated. When Kamala was there with her 5 years, what she did, more than take $7 billion to build the highway from Golconda to Point Fountain, that the PLM have to, Dr. Rowley have to complete it now for a lesser cost. But it is talking about Central. The roads were never done during Kamala time. People who begging for books and all these sorts of things, and this Kapayan people and all kind of things. That is politics they're playing and crying because Dr. Rowley decided not to give them no 20% and this and that. They're crying wolf. Because the same Kamala gave them 2 back pay, but she could have done that because she take all the money and build heliport and go to Brazil with her grandson and go to India and all sorts of things with her entourage, carry her sister and her niece and all sorts of things. That is why. And spend all the money. And after the losing election, the central bank man came and said, money to run the country could be 3 billion. But you're talking about Dr. Rowley, and 7 years there, and Dr. Rowley, crime and bad, those and all kind of things. Do you feel that people who move to Trinidad, Princess Town, all them places they saw all about, had bad roads for years upon donkeys and years and all, it's councillors for down there. What do you all do about it? Central, get the stories right, eh? Or you feel that everybody's stupid?
Pleasant good afternoon, you're live.
Good afternoon to my brother Dominic. Good afternoon to the listeners, the viewers and texters of the Street 919. Now, I have some questions for Central, right? Because you want to come and say how that under Dr. Rowley, the country in this problem right now. I can recall, right? From 2010 to 2015, right? The first misstep that woman made as Prime Minister was hiring a telephone operator to head the security certificate agency in this country. And from since there, come right down. It's every Monday morning was some bacchanal with them in our government. Every Monday morning. So Central, let me tell you something. Yes, because you have a little problem with the crime situation, right? But it had crime under Kamala as well. It had corruption under Kamala. Kamala was the same one who dismantled the security agency in this country and said the fight of crime is not on the sea, it's on the land. She said that. You understand? She said that. So we're coming to tell people now about all the country in it under Dr. Rowley. Kamala had the opportunity to make a difference and she did not make it. She didn't make it. So don't come now with your rhetoric and your BS in people's head and say about with the Cherry School book and the pothole in the road. It's the contract that Kamala and them gives to people and them to run the road and them and give us shoddy work. This is the end result we're getting now. The box-driven government, we just call them. You understand? And furthermore, go and check your health at Central. Because I hear you can't stand up. Dominic and Tiana locked on.
Tiana, before you take the next call, let me just respond to Central, right? And I've made the point before, and I'll make it again. The average budget, the average amount of money that the People's Partnership was spending on an annual basis was about $60 billion. The average amount of money that this administration has been spending is between $50 to $53 billion a year. So we're looking at about between $7 to $10 billion less per year being spent. Now, Dr. Rowley could do the very same thing that Mrs. Prasad did. Spend $60 billion a year. That's let's say $7 billion difference. He could do that. And he could pave every road in the country. He could fix every hospital. He could give every child a laptop and do all of that. But understand that because that extra $7 billion will not come from energy revenues, it has to come from somewhere. Where will it come from? Either they borrow or they take money from the HSF fund. If they take money from the HSF fund, all of you all who complaining now will be singing this song, oh, they're raiding the HSF fund, and that is money for tomorrow, and that is money for the children. And if it is they go and borrow the money, You all will be complaining that they're borrowing a whole set of money, increasing the debt to GDP ratio. Now, he could do that. But understand that future revenues that comes from the energy sector will have to be put towards paying interest on these loans, right? So they could very well borrow the money now and give you all the same lifestyle or even better than you were enjoying between 2010 to 2015 when oil prices were averaging $100 plus per barrel. And as Kamala has said, and I always repeat that, said her government had the highest energy revenues in this country's history. You know what that means? She got more energy revenues than Eric Williams, George Chambers, Ian R. Robinson, Patrick Manning, Basdio Pandey. She had the highest, which is why she could have afforded to do the things that she did. And notwithstanding that she got all of those high energy revenues, highest in the country's history, it didn't stop her from putting the exchequer account into overdraft. You know what that means, Central? Let me explain it to you as a former banker. You have a bank account. The bank gives you an overdraft facility, which allows you to spend all of your money and then spend some of theirs too. The minute you go into overdraft, there are fees to be paid, interest to be paid. So that when it is that the highest it was prior to the PP coming in was 10 billion, they left office, it went to 33 billion. You know how you fix that? This government has to make enough energy revenues to pay off that 33 billion. Well, it's more than 33 now because, of course, the challenges with when energy prices was low, and that the exchequer account is there for that purpose, which manages the state's money. This government has to make enough money to meet all of its expenses in a year and make additional monies now to be able to clear that overdraft, to get back into a black position. That cannot happen. Unless by some miracle, we find gas and oil like they're finding in Guyana, and money start to run. Unless that happens, Central, the exchequer account is in permanent overdraft. So when you ask that question, my question for you is this. Where would you like Dr. Rowley to get the money from? The extra $7 billion a year to take the budget back up to $60 billion per year so that he could use that extra money to pave the road and build more school and give every child laptop and give their parents money for uniform, pay for the children to get transport. Basically for the government to take over the responsibility of minding your child. So all the money you making from your income is for you to enjoy. And the government will give you a food card to feed your child. They will give you a uniform grant and a book grant to pay for uniform and buy books. And they will pay the yellow maxis and the buses to take your children to school. So basically, when you get your salary, you don't have to put out anything to mind your child. All you have to do is to just go and make child, and the government will mind it for you, right? Because that is what you all are advocating. Go ahead, Tiana.
One minute. A pleasant good afternoon. You're live.
Blessed day to you, Dominic.
Can you please turn your radio down, please?
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yes, Dominic. As
Greetings.
I always say, these people never cared about country. In less than 2 years, the Auditor General of the country let us know every institution in that government at the time corrupt. This is Batanda Daga, God rest his soul. Said he have never seen so much corruption in his life. So what do you expect from these criminals and them who are with the taxpayers' money? As I don't say, time longer than twine. Time longer than twine, my brother. It's just a matter of time for these people to really face what they have to face in this country. I want you to go nowhere. She has to stay right here. She might get some punching inside there too. Look down on you, my brother. You have a safe and blessed day, and hope you reach back home safe. God bless PNM. Always have to bring back this country after any other government. Locked on as usual. You reach home safe, as I said to you. I God bless PNM.
Thank you.
A pleasant good afternoon. You're live. Good afternoon. You're live. Good afternoon.
Peace and blessings. Merry Christmas, Mr. Dominic. I know how it's going, but all I want to find out, tell you, Mr. Dominic, I don't know if you see it, because we had a high-powered
Merry Christmas to you too, sir.
Thursday to Friday with the finance minister, the prime minister, the head of the governor of the central bank, and finance analyst, Mr. Dominic. I don't know if you see it or if you hear it, but that is something I would like you to hear and see. If you didn't hear it and see it, and give me a rundown, Mr. Dominic, because what the minister is explaining, Mr. Dominic, and if citizens ain't sit back and rock back and listen to definitely what they say on that program, Mr. Dominic, we into some serious trouble there, Mr. Dominic, and what the man is calling for, as our brethren, they're calling for that for a long time and saying that for a long time is our revenue thing in Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, and the man say we have to get that going very serious. Our revenue authority in Trinidad and Tobago, and with the finance analyst is stating that we have to really get serious and get this plan working and the revenue authority working, because the government is losing millions of dollars, Mr. Dominic, when the year comes without the revenue authority. So I'd like you to hear that, listen to it, and you'll give you finally discourse on it, Mr. Dominic. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Ms. Tiana. Have a safe and blessed day outside. Well, take care for me, please. Thank you. Kindly. Blessings.
Thank you so much.
All right, so
pleasant good afternoon, you're live.
Away from the board for a little bit. So let me just again touch on that issue. And I need to make this point that I hear what some parents are saying, right? With respect to the challenges that they are facing, in terms of the ability to be able to buy books and so on. The government has a role to play somewhat. But you see, I have an issue with some persons who feel that the government should basically fund everything that has to do with their children. When you made the decision to have children, you didn't consult the government, right? So the government you want them to give you a book grant? Okay, no problem. You want the government to pay for your children's transportation. So whether it is that they have these yellow maxis, these yellow buses, whether it is that they giving the children bus tickets, I don't know if they still do that. When the children go to school, the government has to also provide the school feeding programs to give them breakfast and lunch. And then the government must give you some sort of grant, whether it be a food card or something, so that you could buy you the food, so that when they come home, they'll have dinner. And all of these different things. And understand that the government's revenues are challenged. And the government continues to make this point that its revenues are challenged. Now, the UNC keeps complaining and talking about diversification, and we need to diversify the economy and diversify the economy. Yet still, every time they talk about that, they've not offered one single solution as to how diversification can take place. The last time we heard anything about diversification was when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa gave her Johnny Walker plan. Remember the blue economy and the green economy and the gold economy, all colors of Johnny Walker. I don't know if maybe that was the inspiration for that plan, right? But I continue to maintain that the diversification of the economy is not the responsibility of the government. It is not. It is the responsibility of all citizens. The government's responsibility is to create an enabling environment that facilitates and encourages business, encourages entrepreneurship. And that is what they've been doing. More work needs to be done, and the Ministry of Trade is working assiduously to do that. But again, the media that has the responsibility to disseminate this information is not doing that. Because instead, the media gravitates to bacchanal and confusion and propaganda. That's what they like. Hence the reason I will continue to say that we don't have journalists in this country. We have bacchanalists who are posing as journalists. We may have one or two journalists, but they are in the minority. Yeah? And people just don't want to understand the challenges. I make the point again. So you see, Prasad, and irks me every time I hear supporters of the UNC come to talk about how life was better under the People's Partnership. Yeah, but you all forget that prior to Kamla Persad-Bissessar, under Patrick Manning, wasn't life good too? Towards the end of Mr. Manning's administration in 2009-2010, when the economy was booming, when employment was high, Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC administration was complaining. Too much employment, Manning overheating the economy, too much construction taking place, Manning overcrowding the private sector, Manning, all of that. That if it is that you want a mason or a carpenter to do some work home by you, you can't get one because everybody working for the government. And you want to buy cement and you want to buy sand, you can't get it because when you go to the hardware, they're telling you have to wait 2 and 3 months to get because everything committed to the government. You all remember that? You all remember the complaint that we were getting from the UNC then? Under Mr. Manning. But you all like to talk about, UNC like to talk about between 2010 to 2015. Everything was great. Everything was great under them, right? But let's talk about 2002 to 2010. What was the complaints of the UNC then? What was their complaints? Mr. Manning was creating opportunities when it had the Summit of the Americas, when construction was booming, when he built Napa, when he built Sapa, when he built the Chancery Lane complex in San Fernando, when he built the government campus, all of that, people were employed. Money was flowing. The revenues of the state was going towards developing the country to make us look a little more developed. Yeah, we want developed country status, but all they want to continue to look like a shed. It was thanks to Mr. Manning that the waterfront in Port of Spain, the project that was articulated by the last UNC Minister of Finance prior to Mr. Manning coming into office in 2001, thereabouts. The last budget that was read by Gerald Yetming. Mr. Yetming articulated in that budget plans by the UNC to build the waterfront. The only difference between what Mr. Manning brought to life and what the UNC had planned was the hotel. The UNC was planning to bring the Marriott, Mr. Manning brought Hyatt. But everything else they were planning to do. So it was great under them. But the minute Mr. Manning do it, oh gosh, Manning is our emperor. Manning want to be our emperor. Manning want to change his skyline. Manning in love with tall buildings. They had every single criticism that they could give with respect to the waterfront. But when it was articulated in their last budget, yeah man. Finally, Port of Spain going to look like a metropolis. It's going to look like New York and so on. But the PNM do it and only have a problem with it. Yeah? So that the government now, you all fine. And I'm coming back to Central. The government should pay for your children to go. They should give you money to buy uniform. You want money to buy book. They must pay transportation for your child. When your child go to school, they must provide meals through the school feeding program. So they must give your child breakfast and lunch. And if it is was possible, they would give your child dinner too. Just now, they might start to say, well, here what? Extend school by 1 hour and bring dinner and let the children come home with it and eat it. So that you, the parents, wouldn't have to spend a cent on your child. Yeah? Because everything is government. So it is the governmental only want to go and make children. But Kamla was encouraging that. Yeah? $500 a month to make child. Baby grant. She set aside $120 million for baby grant. By the time they left office, only 20 million of that 100 million had been used. And we don't know how much of that 20 million that was used went into corruption because everything they touched had corruption in it. Even the Children's Life Fund that they love to talk about was entrenched in bubble, where you had people thieving money. Yeah? How many children died? 6 children died because you all sent them to a hospital in Colombia that you know was a cut-rate hospital. They sent them there, right? All 6 of them died, despite the reputation of the hospital. And then you had the head of the Children's Life Fund at that time talking nonsense about, well, 6 lives lost out of 100 and something saves is not bad. And I always say, every time I talk about this, tell that to the parents of those 6 children who are today without their children. Because all their Children's Life Fund that all they so love up, didn't want to spend the money to send the children to the United States for them to get the good treatment there. Despite the fact that you had all your financiers, we were given big contracts, right? That you were using to fund your ill-gotten gains. Putting money into the Children's Life Fund, send them outside, send them to the United States. No, you all weren't doing that. That was the baby of Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Yeah? And this is the nonsense that you all want to continue talking about, to be under Kamla, things was better, and crime and this and that. How the guns coming in the country, Central? talk to they say the port, the scanner, the port is down, right? How long it down? Yeah? Well, when the government find the money to fix that, no problem. But when the government says to you all, let us engage in a public-private partnership. So we bring in a private entity to run the port. Let them spend the money to fix all the equipment and to purchase equipment and to upgrade the port and do what they have to do so that they can make their profits. The port remains the property of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, but we have a private entity running it so that government doesn't have to find the money to pay for that. Well, they have a problem with that. Oh, they want to sell the port. Wouldn't take the time to do the research to understand how this public-private partnership works, right? Every time this government articulates something to improve the country, to improve a state facility, problem with it, or they're selling this and they're selling that and they're selling the other and selling the next. 85% of the government's annual budget goes towards paying salaries and wages and salaries, transfers and subsidies. Only when the government has subsidized everything, gas, water, fuel, every bloody thing they must subsidize. Yeah? You jump on the plane to go to the they're subsidizing that, but all they don't study that. You jump on the boat, they're subsidizing that too. And government must find the money and find the money. But you have a problem with every way that they find any money. Don't take the money from the HSF fund. Don't borrow no money. Right? Don't raise taxes. So the only place the government gets revenue otherwise is through the sale of our natural resources, oil and gas. So what do you feel? The government have the power to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, we need the price of oil to be $100 or $150 for the next year so that we could fund all of these things that our citizens want. It doesn't work so. Our production is not at that level. We are price takers. Whatever is the international price, we have to pay that. That's what we get in for our oil and gas. You understand? You all need to take the time to understand this thing. Instead of coming on the radio and talking nonsense about, oh, life was better under Kamala and under Keith Rowley, it's so bad. Ask yourself the question, why is it that roads in this country can't seem to stand up for more than 3 years? Why you all don't hold some of these contractors to account when it is their fault, it's their big trucks that running on the same road and destroying it? They would not, one of them would come out and say, let's assist the government. Let the government pay for the labor and we will pay for the material, or the other way around. Nothing. They sit down and they rock back and waiting for $100 million and $1 billion contracts. Yeah? And paving the road and giving us substandard work for roads that will only last for 3 years because they know every 3 years they're going to get a contract to come back and pave the road. More money in their pocket so they could buy private jet and buy yacht and live life to the best. But you're always talking about the politicians and the politicians. Look at the contractors and ask them why the roads that they're paving can't be paved to last for 20 years. That in the same United States and other developed countries, all they like to talk about, where you have roads lasting that long. But for some reason in Trinidad, that can't happen. That is what you need to talk about, Central. Would this was better than crime? Is that crime under Kamala too? What was the purpose for the state of emergency? They come and hit us a big fat lie and tell us, oh, they have information that something was going to happen that would make the 1990 insurrection look like a tea party. Yeah? When in truth and in fact, it's because they were trying to keep the crime rate down. Under them, all they were hearing, oh, we have major crimes are down. They're giving you statistics every month. How much rape take place? How many burglaries? How many larcenies? But they weren't focusing on the murders, right? You know why? Because they was given box train contract. So the gangsters and them was happy. They was eating our food. Except when it went up towards the end of their term, when in Malabar, all the box train contracts that they gave resulted in 70-something people being murdered as a result of that. Right? Prior to that, murders of that extent was unheard of in W. Mera. Look how quiet W. Mera is now. You know what? It's not a box train contract given out. And L. Roberts isn't the member of parliament for W. Mera. When last I hear murder in W. Mera? Well, let's check all yourself. Tiana, you back? I need to make 10 to 20, 50. Yeah, Chennai back as yet? I guess not. Alright, well I guess she isn't back as yet. So when she comes back, we continue to take your calls. But I continue to make the point. Just right? Yeah. And so when I was listening to the Doglaya, I don't know why I continue to go and listen to this trash from these people, but it's just, he was off air for whatever reason, right? So he allowed that whole issue with the haunting to die down, and then he come back out now, and last night, I think he was back on, and now he's the lion, yeah? Like the lion from Oropuchi and Ian Munilal fighting for that title. Again, and coming and talking a whole pack of nonsense about this government and thief and who thief, and where is the evidence? Who thief? When the thief? The most amount of politicians are before the courthouse in this country came from the United National Congress, and that is something that you all cannot run away from. You all can't run away from that. It is what it is. But everything is the government must do this and the government must do that. The government is telling you all, we're trying to balance, yeah? We're trying to find that balance. Yes, we understand that things are hard in the country. And I make the point. The members of parliament on the government side driving on the same bad roads. We feel that wherever they go, that the road is made of gold and well paved. They're using the same roads in this country. You think Rohan Sinanan not seeing the state of the roads too? You think it pleases him? When I drive through Port of Spain, some of the main roads in Port of Spain have potholes too. So I am certain that members of the government are seeing this. You think they're comfortable? They drive in cars too, and they drive in high-end cars. You feel they like to go down in a pothole to damage their high-end car? No. But if it is that government says to you, we do not have the money right now to pave all the roads. When it is that every time you pave a road down in South, a landslip comes and happen and mash up the road. When it is that they fixed the landslip the other day down in Maruga, right? And Mr. Sinanan came with his entourage to see the work and make sure it was done properly. What's all they did? UNC went and organized Cyril children. Yeah? Organized Cyril children to come out in the road and go from here. Go from here, we want you here. You're coming here looking for fame, go from here. So now, when you have new problems, and Mr. Sananando show up, all they vex, or the minister had time, well, of course, you all told him, go from here. Or they run him from Maruga. You want him to come back now to take more of that abuse? The level of disrespect. And that is what you all are about. Put a banner, hide your children from Rowley. That is what the UNC offers as good governance in this country. But I see, and if you all want to see it too, go on the Ministry of Works and Transport website, and you will see photos, videos of road paving taking place. But you know what? When it is the road paved, calling TV6 and CNC3 and whoever else to come and see the road paved, no. But the minute the road bad, you want to have a protest, you want to burn tire and burn garbage in the road, and then you're calling every TV station to come and see. That is to show the level of how you are dishonest and disingenuous. But I see some UNC councillors now have no shame. When road pave in their district, they're posting up pictures as if they had anything to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Talk to the people about secondary roads and let them understand that the regional corporations and the borough corporations have a responsibility for the secondary roads. That some of these roads do not fall under the ambit of the Ministry of Works and Transport. So that when the road in a state of disrepair is your councillor you need to go to, is the borough corporation, the regional corporation is who you need to go to. That is their responsibility because they get money to pave these roads. But everything is Rohan Sinanan and Rohan Sinanan this and the ministry. And you all wouldn't take the time to understand how the thing works. When the Minister of Finance announced, I think it was a year or two ago, that the government intends to borrow $1 billion to pave roads, well, you had a problem with that. Don't borrow that. You're driving up the debt to the GDP ratio. When earlier on this year, when they had the media review and the minister announced they're going to set up a special purpose company, and in the first instance, they're going to set aside a budget of $100 million to deal with paving road. Well, you had a problem with that. The company ain't set up yet, but they set aside $100 million and they're going and thief that $100 million. And Kamala come to tell all you, but that wasn't announced in the original budget in October last year. So how the government could come and do that? And where they getting that money from? Issues. Instead of saying, applaud the government, yes. Finally, they're doing something positive towards at least bringing some level of alleviation to the problem. That $100 million certainly can't pave all the roads. But at least they're doing something to bring us some level of relief. No. Instead, all they want to find everything wrong with that. How they going and thief the money. And how they could set aside money and the company ain't set up yet. And who is going to be the directors on them company. And how their friend, they're going to get contract with their friend and their family. You can't please all here. Cannot please all here. But you all want the best. property tax, we don't want to pay that. No. When they said that the money collected from property tax will go to your regional corporation so that they could deal with issues in your area instead of from the general account of the government, right? So any money, so if you're living in a high populated area where plenty corporation tax will be collected because of the number of houses and the number of people living in that area, is more money for your corporation to fix the roads and do everything that you want so you could enjoy a comfortable standard of living. No, you don't want that. We don't want to pay no property tax. This government is only about tax. But yet still it is this government that has done more than any other to relieve your tax burden. You're paying less in PAYE because this administration increased your personal allowance from 60,000 to 84. You're paying 2.5% less in VAT, value-added tax, because of this administration, not Kamla. It is this administration that increased the ceiling, the threshold for first-time homeowners when it comes to stamp duty. So whereas under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, if you bought a house costing more than 850,000, as a first-time homeowner, you would have had to pay a set of thousands of dollars in closing costs and stamp duty fees. This administration increased it from 850,000 to 2 million. This administration did that. So you have plenty first-time homeowners now who would have had to find a ton of money to pay stamp duty and other fees. Today they are relieved of that burden. Thanks to who? Keith Rowley and Colman Booth. But this government only like to tax. Wouldn't take the time to go and do the research to see what this administration has done with respect to tax relief. When they try to bring all of the government's revenue collection agencies under one umbrella, the Revenue Authority, well, you want to take chain up from Kamla Prasad Bisesa and them and to tell you, people going and lost their work because they go and fire everybody from BIR and they will hire back who they want to hire and their friends and their family and all of that nonsense. But instead of being able, if you have to pay any government revenues, you go to one place. Warden Office by so, BIR by so, Customs by so. Yes, Tiana.
You have just above a minute and a half.
All right. Well, if we could take one quick call and then wrap up.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah.
Pleasant, good afternoon. You're live. Good afternoon.
To my financial guru, I have one question to ask for this.
Yes, sir.
I heard the Minister of Energy sometimes say ships leaving Trinidad to go to the U.S. to sell gas at $9. But on its way to the U.S., it is going to Asia to sell for $15. Is that so, my brother?
Yes, sir.
Because a man tell me I don't know what I'm talking about now. Because he had on the former Minister of Finance, the Bajan, and he had the lady, right? And none of them couldn't respond to say what I say is not true. Thank you very much, my financial guru. Enjoy your day, sir.
You too, sir. And I will address that issue next week, Sunday. So we are out of time, but not out of things to say, folks. Join Sharon and Bruce tomorrow for Titans of Democracy. And God's willing, I will be back with you on Tuesday morning, and we will continue the discussion. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday, the rest of your weekend. I certainly intend to. And to those who are listening to us outside of Trinidad and Tobago in the United States, enjoy your Labor Day weekend. I am out. Thanks, Diana.
Are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.